We finally did it, everybody. After enough pestering and a helpful Q&A session, we were able to get lore values for Tigger, Goofy, Lady Tremaine, and Aladdin. But that one was obvious. If he was stronger than one, that'd be two. Anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about why a bunch of you were questioning why Tigger is 2 lore and Goofy is also 2 lore. And I'm here to tell you. So normally when we see an increase of 1 cost, we see strength and willpower combined go up by 2. But in this case, with Goofy and Tigger, Goofy costs 1 less, but Tigger only has 1 more strength. Why is that? Let me introduce you to a little thing called breakpoints. What are breakpoints? Breakpoints is where the normal linear stat increase makes a bigger difference on gameplay than normal. Now knowing that, and the video that this is, take a guess at where the first big breakpoint for Lorcana is. Yeah, you got it. 3 to 4.
Balloons.
So now let's sit down and look at some more concrete examples of these breakpoints. So just a reminder, here's the cards. We've got Goofy at 5 cost, 3, 4, 2 lore. Tigger, 1 additional strength, 1 additional cost. Now it seems the evasive strategy, the idea may be to quest first, trade later. It's something to keep in mind as we look through these breakpoint examples and kind of have the idea of the evasive deck in the back of your head. But we also take a look at Brave Little Tailor here at +1/+1 strength and willpower and +2 lore for only +2 cost. Seems like he, by comparison, makes Tigger look even worse, but keep in mind, Mickey Mouse is a legendary card, so it's going to be very, very good. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about breakpoints between 3 and 4. So Genie is a great card to bring up to further have this conversation. You know, it's got the same 3, 4, 2 lore stat line as Goofy, costs 1 more, and is uninkable due to its awesome disappear ability there. But what it really points out is that this 3, 4 stat line is a repeating pattern. And we see it again with the vanilla drops here of Wardrobe and Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot. Now, these cards can trade 2 for 1 with any 1 or 2 drop card we've seen before. We have not yet seen a 1 or 2 cost card that has 4 willpower. Now, furthermore, with this 3, 4 breakpoint to keep in mind, we've got Smash that deals 3 damage, just right off the bat with an action. And we've got Rafiki who can come in and deal 3 damage to any exerted character. So again, these will clear anything 1 or 2, and then many. Well, it'll depend again upon what we see by the end of the release of all the cards, but lots of 3-drop cards as well. Now, we've got these sort of alternate vanillas on the 3 line here, where instead of the extra 4th willpower to keep them alive, they've got an extra lore. So using them is kind of a bit of a gamble, you know, because it's the difference between exerting Jasmine to quest once versus exerting Wardrobe to quest twice. Definitely seems like we're going to have, you know, cards that are or batteries that get you the lore to win, and then cards that are good to help you control the board and trade. And your deck is just going to have the right combination of those. Now, obviously, we see with these 2 vanillas right here, they can be taken out by the Smash, by Rafiki if they're exerted. And I think something that's interesting to note is in the play testing, as soon as we had enough cards where people could start dropping cards, Kristoff was getting dropped from steel decks left and right. The survivability was not good enough for even with the 2 lore. There was just better options people felt out there. Now, again, that's not the whole card pool when that was happening, but interesting to note or pretty much think about. So we'll see. Jasmine, on the other hand, with Princess, she might be a little stronger there. We've got that Moana synergy. But it'll be interesting to see what we end up with as our, you know, meta decks when the whole set's out. Now, to look at a few more 3 drops that have the same 3, 3 stat line, we've got Maximus and we've got Hercules. Maximus, of course, has the ability to reduce your opponent's strength when you put him into play, and Hercules can come in exerted to help protect your other characters. It's important to note that these abilities happen when these cards are played. That contrasts here with these cards where the abilities on Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer, Tinkerbell, Tiny Technician, and Iago, Loudmouth Parrot are crucial on them staying on the board. They have to be a little bit sticky. Now, Mickey is pretty straightforward that if you have enough brooms in your hand, you don't even need to bother exerting him. You just keep throwing brooms at your opponents and keep Mickey safe. Not entirely safe, but safer. But Iago and Tinkerbell, Tiny Tactician, on the other hand, they have to exert to get the full value out of those cards. If they had 3 willpower, they would be banished, you know, either immediately with Smash or as soon as you exhaust them the first time, they're gone. so many 3-drops having 3/3 or better stat lines, they would be able to guarantee a 2-for-1 trade, especially since, to balance these cards, they've got a lower strength, and they would just be off the board immediately. So with the 4 willpower, especially for Iago, he really needs this. They get some stickiness. They're a little harder to remove. You can potentially use their abilities a couple of times. Like if Iago, for example, Jasmine with the 2 lore, 3/3 that we just saw. If Iago gives her Reckless, if he had 3 willpower, he's just gone immediately. But instead at 4, your opponent now has to choose, okay, do I want to risk Jasmine not being able to quest for 2 turns, or do I need to throw another character into this Iago to get rid of it? At that point, your opponent's exerted an additional character that opens up more opportunity for you to take out stuff on their board that they may not have wanted to make available for you to, challenge. So that 4 willpower is absolutely critical for Iago being a worthwhile card at all. I'm going to look through a few more examples here of 4 willpower cards that we see this jump to the 4-cost line is where a lot of these 4 willpower cards live. And 4 to 6 cost cards are likely going to be a significant part of the curve of most people's decks. If you don't know what that means, basically I'm just saying that the 4 to 6 cost cards are kind of be the main part of most decks that really help decide if you win or lose games. Now this, of course, there's some nuance to that. There's a bit of simplification, but for now, it's the main point we're working with. Cards have 4 strength. They can trade 2-for-1 with almost like every card 4 costs and lower except for Jafar. Jafar is the only thing we've seen that costs 4 or less and has 5 or more willpower. Be interesting to see if we get more of those. I think what else I'll be interested to see is if we get any 4/4 vanilla drops and where those will be slotted in stat line wise. Now, at this point, hopefully you've seen the points I made about breakpoints and that value of 1 extra strength not always being equal. That jump from 3 to 4 is a lot bigger than a jump from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, for example. Anything with 4 strength, you got that 2-for-1 trade out there. And so even at this higher cost of 5/6 as opposed to 3/4 or 4/5, that extra strength is still huge for Tigger. Now, I have one last card that I absolutely have to mention for this discussion that I have not yet, and that is Robin Hood. Robin Hood as a 4/4 that can challenge Evasives. That alone is an awesome card. You've got on top of that the fact that he has 2 lore, so there's extra threat there, and he can potentially draw you a card. Just makes him so good enough that even if your opponent does not have Evasives in their deck, he's not going to hold you back by including him. Further, if we look at trades, we can see that Robin Hood trading with Goofy is a huge advantage. You can trade Robin Hood into Goofy, still have 1 willpower left, and trade even potentially with another Goofy or even a Tigger. So being able to trade 2-for-1 with your 6-cost cards into multiple 5-cost cards potentially is huge. Same thing if you're playing a mirror match with evasive decks and you've got Tigger and your opponent has Goofy, you can trade your 1 Tigger into 2 Goofies, again trading 1 6-cost card into multiple 5-cost cards. Now, that is a huge advantage. Tigger at 4 strength with only 2 lore, it makes sense. It's worth it. It checks out. There's a big breakpoint there. And as we get more cards, we'll get a lot more insight into how prolific evasive decks are and, the best strategies to help build them, pilot them, and counter them the best ways. But until then, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.